My name is Susan Durnan, and I am the administration lead of the Mississauga Arts Council. I'd like to thank you today for joining us for day 2 of our 2-day workshop. This is TD Culture Lab Explore Publishing Workshop, sponsored by TD Bank Group and presented by Mississauga Arts Council in collaboration with Courtney Park Writers Group and Mississauga Writers Group. TD Culture Lab Explore Publishing is a 2-day virtual workshop, and today we're learning about self-indie and traditional publishing through panel discussions with industry leaders. If you missed day 1, that's okay. We did miss seeing you, but the video is available on our YouTube page, so you will be able to watch that again. If you'd like more information, you can visit us at mississaugaartscouncil.com. The Mississauga Arts Council is dedicated to enabling the growth of the arts by creating opportunity and connection between artists and residents in Mississauga and beyond. Celebrating our milestone 40th anniversary this year, the Mississauga Arts Council is a registered charity dedicated to accelerating progress toward the attainment of our vision of Mississauga as a vibrant cultural community where arts and culture thrive. Our mission is to empower the arts economy by creating more opportunities and capacity, connecting artists to audiences and each other, and celebrating artists' achievements. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, Ojibwe Chippewa, Métis, and most recently, the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, who are direct descendants of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Okay, let's get started. Please welcome Mary Ellen Koroscil of Courtney Park Writers Group, who will moderate the traditional publishing panel discussion.
Well, hi, everybody who's just joined us recently. I see Doris and quite a few people from our group, and I'm really excited. We've got a great publishers panel all lined up. And I think you will learn a lot about traditional publishing. I mean, we've heard from the self-publishing group and now the traditional publishing group. So I'm just going to open it, and we're going to have 3 different interviews, or as I say, conversations. And I'm going to read their bios first and introduce our publishers. And I'll mention at the end of our interviews, which will be at 4:30, we are going to have a Q&A. And we'd just like you to, if you would, to use the chat line if you like, and then we'll put the video back on, and we'll try to see, I don't know if we can do it with unmuted or not. We'll see how it works, but we want you to come up with a lot of questions. So it's very rare that you can get 3 publishers kind of, and you're face-to-face with them online. So let's start. I'm going to introduce Bala Menon. And he is with Tamarind Books, and I'll just read his bio. And he's a member of our Courtney Park Writers Group, and we're so thankful he is. He is the owner and president of Tamarind Books, and Bala is based in Brampton. He is a journalist, an artist, and a writer, and a historian. And he began his career with India's premier English language newspaper, The Times of India, in Mumbai. And then he took up an assignment as deputy editor with the Times of Oman. This is the national daily of the Sultanate of Oman in Muscat. He was later deputy night editor at Gulf News, the largest circulated English language newspaper in the Middle East, which was published in Dubai. He is currently editor-in-chief at the Voice Media Group in Mississauga. And he is a member of the Mississauga-based Courtney Park Writers Group, as I mentioned, and as well the Brampton Writers Guild. And he writes historical nonfiction and short stories. And he co-wrote Jewish Gandhi of Cochin, which we had a big book launch on Zoom last year, and Spice and Kosher, works by Brampton seniors. Last year, he published a collection of short stories, Phyllis the Donkey Girl, and Other True Tales by our own Trevor C. Trower, a member of our Courtney Park Writers. And I have contact information, which is down here, and you can certainly, copy it down. And if you'd like to get in touch with Bala, so he's at his email, menon@gmail.com, and his website is www.tamarind, Tamarind, treebooks.com. And you could reach them by phone, 416-879-0924. Okay, Bala, it's so great to have you with us. And I'm going to start off with a few questions. We'll kind of pepper you with questions. Okay. Yeah, it's to start off, what type of genre do you specialize in publishing?
What I want are short stories, folk tales, historical novels, children's books. I published only one book of poetry, which was a flop. So now I don't look at poetry very much, unfortunately. Although there are some very good poets and very good poems being written. My own books are based on the history of the Jewish community of Cochin, the tiniest of the Jewish diaspora. This community settled in the southern India during the time of King Solomon, about 2000 years ago. And so these books are in good demand across the Jewish world. So I've published 3 books in the Cochin Jewish series. 2 are mine and 1 by a New York-based author. And this is a niche market. So that's doing well. All of them are doing well. And another book I published was on Sri Lankan folks, rural stories. It's called Folk Tales from the Serendib. It's still doing very well after 6 years after publication. There's another book called Indentured, a historical novel by a Toronto teacher. That's doing well too. It tells the story of bonded Indian labor in South Africa, but also applies to people in the Caribbean nations and Fiji, Mauritius. So there's a world view involved. These sort of books, they find a ready market instead of love stories, or which is sort of a little narrower in the field. These are the genres I'm looking at.
Okay, I know you've done a lot of publishing, particularly this year, and with our group, we've got a lot of books coming up. And my next question is, why do you favor publishing work that's written by seniors? This is a real tough question, I know.
Yeah. One thing, maybe because I like dinosaurs.
That's good.
Not the outmoded, the extinct type of dinosaurs, but seniors, because who have the wisdom of the ages. It could also be because I'm not fascinated with the youth culture of today, when things like rap music, the casualness towards everything. And of course, it is the seniors who have the real stories to tell. All those years of living, the knowledge, the happiness, the pain they have collected, and all distilled into wisdom, which can translate into wonderful words. I think I prefer going with seniors.
That's really good to hear. Thank you for that. Okay, my next question is, please explain your connection to our Courtney Park Writers Group.
I was a member of the Flower City writing group, creative writing group of Brampton. We had a beautiful sessions at the Serious Adult Center in the Flower City. And then, of course, we have members here too. There's Reina. She was a lead there. Unfortunately, some of them passed away. And then the group was disbanded about 2 years ago. And many of the members were also part of the Courtney Park Writers Group. So I also became a member. And of course, it's a wonderful group because it's a very supportive members, and everyone is encouraged to read their works and write. And also because you are such a wonderful leader, Mary Ellen.
Well, thank you very much.
You are the glue that holds it together.
Well, thank you.
Hopefully we can all meet again on a physical plane.
I know, we really miss the,
Zoom meetings are interesting, but physical thing is very important.
That's it. Okay, well, thank you for that. That was a glowing report. I love to hear that. Okay, I was questioning, how long does it generally take your publishing company from the start of the process, reading the manuscript, to the editing, to formatting, front and back cover design, and finally to printing the finished book? So if you can give us an idea of the length of time.
Well, I think it's about 3 months. I mean, after a decision is made to publish the book, It'll take about 3 months, yeah. Because I insist on a well-edited manuscript, so that does not become a problem later. Then there's no time involved in editing and rewriting. Then what is left is only the formatting and the final proofreading and creation of a good cover design, and the book is ready to go. I have two very good artists who are able to create good artwork. And also, I don't raise expectations for the authors. I tell them beforehand that not even the sale of a single book is guaranteed. If they think their books can sell in thousands and that they will make a ton of money, they should find some other publisher or do it themselves. But I will publish it and make it available worldwide. Many of the seniors want it. That's it's a happiness that they are getting their books in print.
That's right, when they are
If it
holding their
sells,
book. Yeah.
if it sells good, they can get some royalty. The industry standard is 10%. And I mean, the publisher gets 10%. The author gets 10%. The rest goes to the printing, the wholesaler, the retailer takes a big chunk, about 40 to
Always.
45% of the price of the book is taken by the retailer. 15% goes to the wholesaler. The rest goes to the printer, shipping, transport. What is left is 20%. That has to be shared by the author and the publisher. I make this very clear to the authors first. And
So there's no false
yeah, there's nothing left.
preconceptions about, I mean, if it happens, it's great.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
certainly. Yeah. Okay, we've got questions already from Patap, so we're ready for question and answer. That's great. People are already coming through. Okay, now do you believe that more publishers will be looking to publish the, I guess it's called escapism, or the lighter styles of writing due to the isolation and the impact of the pandemic? This is a really a hard question for all publishers because everything's changed so much. So give us your feelings on this.
Yeah, I think I have a feeling that dark stories could be in demand about not happy stories. About say dystopian societies and where the earth becomes a hell, and natural horror tales, not supernatural horror, natural horror stories with no happiness in the beginning, no happiness in the middle, but maybe with a little happiness in the end, the glimmer. Of course, as I say, a good book should never have an ending, so they'll have to leave that open.
Wow, that's interesting. So kind of more, because I know in the beginning, a lot of publishers, this would be 2 or 3 years ago, they were looking for edgy type of stories. But I don't think that's the case now. I think we've all been on edge enough with the pandemic that I think there's a different, and horror too is big. You're right. You're right, it is. It's a big...
Natural horror, what is around us, physical and environmental destruction, this viruses, and I don't know what else is coming in the future.
Well, that's it. Who knows?
Someone with imagination can create a lot of new things.
Well, that's the beauty of being a writer. You can create your own world. Okay, and my final question is, how has the pandemic affected your publishing company and you personally, and in future, what will you be doing differently? I know this is kind of a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know. When I have a graphic design division in my company, which produces commercial brochures and booklets that used to make money, which subsidize the publishing side. That has collapsed now. The graphic design contracts have all dried up during the last year. I hope it picks up again. Until then, I think if I break even with a book, I will continue publishing. I'm thinking of about maybe 5 to 8 books a year, although I'm not soliciting any submissions. I'm also reading and updating my Tamarind Tree website at present, and that should be up at about say 2 weeks or so. And of course, I have 8 books already for this year. One has already been published, The Quilt of My Life's Memories, a story of a Polish resistance fighter, that was published in January. 2 books of mine are scheduled. One is historical essays and notes on the Jews of Cochin, and another book of 30 pocket stories, that is twisted tales with which are about 1,000 words each. There are also 5 other books planned, 2 with members of our group, Courtney.
That's right. We have our anthology coming up too.
One is, that's the third one. One is Kim Care's delightful novel called Kitty Casino.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
Children's book
Kim's novel.
by Sheila Tucker about Christmas. A third is an anthology of works by Courtney Park writers. And there's another book of short stories by an author from Rockwood, Ontario, and a book on Buddhist philosophy by a Sri Lankan scholar in Toronto scheduled. So that is
Certainly is a lot of variety, isn't there?
Yeah, 8 books
genres,
here, yes.
which is great. You know, that's what I appreciate.
They're all of, I think, wide appeal. So I think that should do okay.
All right. Well, Bala, that's great. So is there anything you want to leave us with that you can inspire a writer, or if there's anything that you want to mention that, you know, kind of would hold us together or just give us some hope or in the publishing field?
I don't know. Writers should write. That's the only thing left.
That's about it. I think that's the best piece of advice. It really is. Yeah. We just
There's nothing else. And of course, yeah.
Because I know within our group, I've heard from a few. They just said, I just don't feel inspired, you know, to write right now because everything's kind of at a standstill and we're all, you know, under tight restrictions. But I think that the key is, you know, as you said, we just have to, you know, kind of buckle up and keep
read also as much as possible. There are so many wonderful books available.
Well, that's it. I think what's the saying? Readers are leaders and leaders are readers. Yeah. No, definitely. Okay, Bala, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That is great. Okay, we're going to move along to Michael and Kathryn. If you can get your video on, we can't see you. Kathryn Lane, because she's going to be our next. Okay, let's see if we can get Kathryn. Okay. Oh, I need, okay, Michael Mirolla. Okay, Michael, I see you there, your smiling face. Okay, I will just read your bio. Michael Mirolla is the co-owner of Guernica Editions, and they have offices in Toronto and Montreal. And Michael resides in Hamilton. He is an award-winning novelist, short story writer, poet, and playwright. His publications include 2 novels, The Facility and Berlin, a 2010 Bersani Prize winner and finalist for the 2009 Indie Book and National Book Best Book Awards. Recently, he has written 2 short story collections, The Formal Logic of Emotion and Hot House Loves. Oh, that sounds exciting. And Other Tales, plus 2 poetry collections. The English-Italian Interstellar Distances and Light and Times, a Theory of Discontinuous Existence, was selected for the Journey Prize anthology. Well, another short story, The Sand Flea, was nominated for the Pushcart Prize. Many of the authors published by Guernica Editions are also recipients of award. Talk about an award-winning publisher. He has also initiated the Guernica Prize, Canada's newest literary award, and we're going to be talking about that in a few moments. So, Michael, welcome. Are you ready to have a conversation?
Unmute. Here we go.
There we go. Oh, okay, Michael. I'm so glad to have you here.
Well,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, I think it's good. I think it's hard to get in front of publishers, and I think this is a great platform to do it. Okay. And I'm going
Especially
to
during
ask,
submissions period time. This is our last day of submissions for this year.
that's what you mentioned, April the 30th. Well,
Yep.
that's all right. There's still hope.
Yep. Until midnight tonight.
Midnight, okay, if someone has a manuscript tucked away in their drawer, they can, you know, dust it off and get it off to you.
Send it in.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, name some of the awards that were presented to your published authors. I read about your awards, you know,
Yeah,
the awards
that's
that you received. Now, how about the authors?
Well, there's been just about every award in Canadian Lit has been Guernica author has won. Don't forget that Guernica has been around since 1978. So my partner and I took over in 2009. That's Connie Guzzo McFarland is my partner out of Montreal. So in I just looked up, when I saw that question, I just looked it up on our website, and I saw that in 2020 and 2020 and up to now in 2021, Guernica authors have received 20 either awards, nominations for awards, or short listings for awards. So that was just in the last 18 months. But we've won the awards from the Quebec Writers Federation, the New Brunswick, Governor General's Award, Trillium Award, Relit, the Ottawa Book Award, and Hamilton Literature Lit Award, which an author won, but I just won that last this as well. The the bio you read is about 8 years old. I've published.
I pulled it off your website.
Yeah, I know. That's so. I've published 17 books now up to this.
17, because it's interesting. I think it's great when a publisher is a writer as well, because you know all the pits and you know the highs and lows, the pitfalls and the highs and lows of being a writer and getting published and going through the whole process.
Yeah, you do, except that, you know, I never, it's the same battle for me as it is for any other writer, because neither my partner who's a novelist, Connie, or myself actually publish through Guernica.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No, we do not do that.
Publish elsewhere. Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh yeah, no. We don't publish through our own publishing house because, well, it's the optics. It can be perceived as vanity publishing. I mean, so there's no one to tell you, you know what you just sent in to yourself is terrible. I don't think we're going to publish this.
So you're talking about being objective.
Anyway, so yeah, no, that's we've won quite a few awards. We've had a whole bunch nominated and shortlisted. So yeah, it's we're kind of proud of that. It's a lot of hard work to get all the material. I have to thank our publicist and our marketing and sales people for getting those books out to reviewers and to the award people. It's you know, that's the only way you're going to do it is getting it out there. If you just hope and pray, it doesn't.
No,
really
you have to be proactive. Yeah,
exactly.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Okay, as I mentioned, you're a publisher and a writer as well, and so you would wish to recognize writers with the Guernica Prize, Canada's newest literary award you have initiated. Would you tell us about it, please?
Sure. The Guernica Prize is an award for an unpublished novel that we say leading edge or cutting edge or whatever, but it's basically a literary novel, a literary manuscript. So again, it's the submissions period is the same as our regular one. We get about 50 manuscripts a year for the Guernica Award. We have it's a separate, completely separate from Guernica. The Guernica people do not make the decision. We select. We ask 3 jurors. We go out there and solicit 3 jurors, usually well-known authors or other publishers or even agents, and those 3 jurors take on the 50 manuscripts that have been submitted, approximately 50 manuscripts. Then they decide on the top 10, which is the long list, and they break that down into a short list, and then we announce a winner around the middle of August, and the winner gets $1,000 prize and publication with Guernica.
I think that's wonderful. I mean, you something to strive for. No, really.
Well, it is, and you know, yeah.
There aren't a lot of awards that are really doable for maybe an emerging writer or even some established writers. But
well,
this would be a good opportunity.
Yeah, most awards are for already published manuscripts, right? I mean, you know, all the awards, all the Canadian awards, in fact, are for published works.
Well, that's why you decided for the young.
Yeah, we looked at that and we said, yeah, there's an opening there somewhere that we, you know, and hopefully, you know, $1,000 is not a huge amount. So hopefully this is our 4th year. This will be our 4th year. We're looking for some sort of sponsors or, you know, to up the price a little bit more and make it even better for an emerging author. But it doesn't have to be an emerging author.
There could be
We've received
an
manuscripts
established.
from well-known authors.
Oh, okay,
You
okay.
know, it's not just because all it has to be is an unpublished manuscript at that point. And let's not forget that what's happened in the upper echelons of publishing in Canada is the merging of the really big corporations, as it were. And there's been a cascade effect. They've been dropping authors. So those authors have been cascading down into, you know, mid-level publishing houses like ECW, for example, or Dundurn, you know, and even us. We're getting manuscripts from authors that we would not have seen 5-10 years ago.
Really, right?
Because it's getting tighter and tighter.
Well, I think that's the problem, isn't it? Well, I'm glad that you have initiated that award. I mean, it gives something to strive for. All right, and can you tell me, what is the general time frame from start to finish when you're publishing your books?
Well,
I know this is a $64,000 question, isn't it?
but it is Bala said, you know, I was so jealous of the fact he said 3 months.
I know.
3
His turnaround is really quick. We appreciate that because we'll have, you know, our books up
Yeah.
here.
Well,
But-
we plan 2 years in 2 years in advance. The manuscripts that are coming in right now are going to be decided on by August of this year. Those manuscripts are set for the year for 2023.
Okay, so it's about an average of 2 years then.
2 years, yeah,
Start.
from the start. I mean, part of it has to do with the editing process itself. We edit very, very tightly. We have a bunch of editors out there that I send the works out to, and they do an interchange with the author back and forth until they're both happy with the manuscript. That takes time.
Well, that is a huge time consuming.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the publishing.
Yeah, but also it's important to remember that our distributor asks for book covers, for example, a year in advance
Oh, really?
in order
What's
to
that long a lead time?
for catalog purposes, metadata to be put out there. You know, so all of that takes. You have to have something ready a year in advance for that alone. So the actual process itself takes about a year. From the editing to the printed books arriving here at Guernica, at the Guernica head office, and at the distributors. So that takes about a year, but we plan 2 years in advance, and so.
Okay, so and I'll just get a quick number. How many books are you planning to publish this year? Like just that number, or if you have a.
In all, we
ballpark.
have three. We have the 2 imprints, and on our main Guernica Editions is a literary press. Mirolla is the imprint that does memoirs, how-to books, graphic novels, and then we have an imprint called Guernica World Editions, which publishes non-Canadian authors only. And
Okay, so
and the total number of books this year, last time I looked, was about 50 to 55.
50. Oh, that's a good number considering we're right in the midst of this pandemic. Oh, okay. Okay, and I'm going to ask you, speaking of the pandemic, how have you adapted during the pandemic to working virtually when initiating book launches and special promotions? I know I'm on your promo list, and you have a number of online book launches. I mean, you rolled right along with
Right.
the virtual.
Yeah, and I mean, it hasn't affected our the publishing side of things that much because you know, just about everything is done online these days anyway. You know, so that didn't affect very much. But the actual book launches, thanks to our publicists, thanks to Margot and previously Anna, you know, they have the ability and the information and the knowledge to set up all the virtual launches, and we've had great success with these launches. And the thing about the virtual launches that is I mean, you miss the camaraderie, you miss the you know, the face-to-face.
I know, and the book signings, I miss that the most. Yeah.
But the advantage is that you can get you can get an audience from Timbuktu, you know.
True, too. You can get somebody over in
It's
Turkey.
so that's part of it. We've had people from all over the U.S., for example, even from Italy. So you know that there's that part of it as well. So you get both.
You get a wider scope, definitely.
Yeah, in that sense. But yeah, we really I miss that the in person.
I think we
really.
all do, but I mean, this is the next best thing. That's what we're doing. Okay. And now, what genre do you think is going to be in demand now? Escapism or the lighter types? I know I asked Bala that too, because I think every author is inquiring, well, what should I write? What should I submit?
Well, I mean, there's two ways to look at that. I mean, you know, if you ask me as a writer, I would say, well, I'm sorry, but I actually have absolutely no choice about the type of genre I'm going to write, because I only know how to write in one way, and that's the best way I can. And, you know, whatever that comes out to, that's what it is. I don't select a genre first and then say I'm going to write in that genre. If you're asking me as a publisher,
Yes, how do you feel as a publisher? What genre?
again, we're a literary press, basically, you know. But as I said, we have a Mirolla, which is open up to all sorts of genres. We're publishing a mystery this year.
Oh, you're doing mystery, because I know you still do collections of poetry. You know, you
Yeah, no, that's part of our literary. That's
Yeah.
part of the literary one. Yeah, we publish between 8 and 10 poetry collections a year.
Okay.
As Bala said, yeah, it doesn't sell. No, it doesn't sell. But we feel that poetry should be part of the cultural environment in Canada. So
Yeah,
we want.
I agree with you 100%. We have a lot of poets in our writers group. No, I agree.
Yeah, and you know, we get about 100 poetry manuscripts submitted every year. It's difficult to pick out between 6 and 10 of those, but you know, what can you do? This is one of the problems with traditional publishing, is that the selection, the number of manuscripts that we receive versus the number that we can actually publish versus the number that are publishable is you know, the ones we can publish is quite low compared to right now I have more than 250 fiction prose manuscripts to look to that have been submitted.
Oh, wow, you've got a lot of submissions.
So how many of those can we select? About 10% actually.
Well, that's the hard part.
So that's one of the problems with traditional publishing right now. But you say the genre. I mean, like I said, we're open to just about any, as long as it's good writing. You know, we've done YA novels. In fact, very successful YA. We've done a mystery. We've done speculative fiction.
Okay, mysteries now too. I didn't understand.
Yeah, no, it's Mirolla is open to just about anything as long as it's good writing. It doesn't have to be literary, you know. So that's opened up quite a bit, and we're getting quite a few manuscripts from that. How well they sell? What's the best-selling material? Well, I don't know. Our best-selling book is a how-to book.
Okay.
How to write poetry. How to write poetry.
How to writing.
Save your life.
Well, I know even Stephen King has a writing book out. Yeah, on writing. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Now, I think we've got about 3 or 4 minutes. Do you have another book in the works that you are writing and plan to publish? I know, as every writer, there's always one, you know, kind of.
Are we talking about? You're
work
talking
in
about me now.
progress. This
Right.
is for you. Work in progress. Yeah.
Well, I've got three potential books ready to go. I have a collection of magic realist short stories. I have a novella, which I claim to have been written by an AI collective. And I have a 200,000 word novel, The Second Law of Thermodynamics, which I wrote the first draft for while I was the writer in residence at the historic Joy Kagawa House in November 2019. So, yeah.
You've got a lot of works.
As always, yeah, you have to.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good.
Keep going. You got to keep going. That's the whole thing. Otherwise, you fall flat on your face. So,
yeah, you've got it. Now, what can you leave with? bit of inspiration could you give to an aspiring writer trying to
Well, I would say, don't give up. Keep writing all the
No.
time. Keep submitting material. I always tell the story about the pile of rejection slips that I had. I mean, a pile. I'm talking about, it was enough. It was like bags, a bag full.
Could you
which
pay for a room with them? You
I
could?
decided to go into the backyard and dump them into a bin and set them on fire.
Yes.
That was it. That's it. You know, but you can't get discouraged. That's I think is very important for a writer.
Okay, that's good to hear. I think we
And
have
that they have discipline. Don't forget discipline. That's also necessary as a writer. You've got to discipline yourself to do it all the time.
do not stop. That's what Bala said. You just keep at it. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you do improve. You improve your
You
craft.
never know. You never know. Maybe Guernica might publish your book one day. Who knows?
Well, that's it. Well, Michael, thank you very much. So
You're welcome. You're welcome.
very enlightening. All right, we're going to move along to Kathryn Lane. Kathryn, it's good to put a face to a voice. I'm really glad. Okay, is your mic on?
My mic is on. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. Okay, I'm going to read your bio. I'm so glad Kathryn came in. She's joining us, and she is with she's the associate publisher of Dundurn Press in Toronto. So that's good. We had Bala with Brampton. We had Michael with Hamilton, and now we have the Toronto area represented by Kathryn. Okay, I'll read your bio, Kathryn. Kathryn Lane is an associate publisher of Dundurn Press in Toronto, and she has been working in book publishing for over 20 years. She started as an editor at First Folio Research Group, Inc., a Toronto-based packager of educational material and children's trade books. In 2000, she moved to the UK, London, the UK, and joined the Eyewitness Travel Guide team at Dorling Kindersley, and then moved to travel publisher Rough Guides. Kathryn returned to Toronto, and after working freelance, joined independent Canadian publisher Dundurn Press as a managing editor, and the year was 2015. Now, as associate publisher, she oversees design and editorial and works in acquisitions and on the list development. She has been deeply involved in refocusing the press since its sale in 2019. In March of this year, Dundurn Press rebranded with a modern new logo and an inclusive mandate to elevate exceptional Canadian writers. Now that's good news. Dundurn's mandate also included the publishing of contemporary trade fiction and non-fiction. And Dundurn Press is also emphasizing important studies that reflect the world, satisfy curiosity, and entertain and enlighten us. Their mandate also includes publishing of contemporary trade fiction and non-fiction. Their books will provide a portal into a place not yet known to the reader, where new voices and stories will be discovered. They invite readers and writers into a new home for previously underrepresented voices in our diverse culture. That is good to hear too, Kathy, and in our literary community. Like our readers, we're curious, we're courageous, and forward-thinking, and we invite you to read with us, and these are your stories. Now you can see the contact information if you want to reach Kathryn. The email is info@dundurn.com, and her website is dundurn.com, and the telephone number is 416-214-5544. And she also has a submissions page, and it's dundurn.com/resources/submissions. And the submissions email is submissions@dundurn.com. Okay, Kathryn, I'm so glad to have you with us. And I'm just going to start our conversation. Okay, and I will ask you, what characteristics will traditional publishers like yourself look for in an author?
Well, the first thing, of course, is fantastic writing, and a story that that pulls the reader in, keeps them engaged. So, I mean, that's the basis, right? Is of course the quality of the writing, and whether it's fiction or nonfiction, it depends. I think on top of the need for great writers, and if they're doing nonfiction, good research abilities, and interest in the particular subject that they're covering. What's becoming more and more important is the ability to market yourself to a certain extent, because once your book is out, the publisher there is there as a great support and can push your book into the world and you into the world, but you need to be your own best champion as well. So the combination, when we find that combination, that's really nice to have, because it helps the author keep going, right?
Well, that's right. And I've heard that many times echoed before from publishers, that you have to, besides being a good writer, you have to be able to promote your book too and be willing to do it. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Now, how has the pandemic impacted traditional publishing with Dundurn? I know it's impacted every area of everybody's life. But how has it really impacted the Dundurn?
Well, like so many, we used to have an office. We shut our office, and we've actually moved to a smaller office, but we don't get to go to it.
Well, that's it. We're all working from home.
Yep, so we're all working from home, like everyone else. And so that was an adjustment, like it has been for everyone else. How the pandemic affected Dundurn in particular was when the pandemic hit in March or April last year. The entire chain broke down. So the retailers shut, and the books didn't have anywhere to go. They were stuck in the warehouse. So there was no, so suddenly all sales dried up, of course,
Oh,
right?
that's it. That's the
Yeah.
sad truth, isn't it?
Yeah, so everything just ground to a complete halt. We, like many publishers, had difficult decisions to make about what to do with the books that were supposed to be coming out. We decided to basically take our summer list and move it to fall. So all the books that we were planning to bring out in the summer, we moved a few months into the future. And of course, what happened in the fall of 2020 is other publishers did the same thing. And so September 2020 must have been more books coming out.
They were just flooded. The market was flooded with books. Yeah.
Yes, this huge number of books came out in early fall last year. Yeah, so I think what's been difficult is the retail environment. You know, we're publishers, we're not restaurateurs, you know, so it's been hard, but being in books is probably a pretty good place to be during a pandemic.
I would say, because people were, the reading level is up, because there isn't a lot we could do, isn't it?
Yeah. So the difference really is there's the readers, we want them to read our books, of course, but with the retail being so questionable, what's become really tricky is figuring out how many books to print, because people have changed, so everybody's habits have changed. So people are starting to read more and more ebooks, right? And people are getting their books from different places. They go to independent bookstores, but not really, right? So the number of how the actual market has changed has made it quite difficult to make decisions or be confident in your decisions. So one thing that is perhaps a benefit of the pandemic is, of course, writers are writing more.
That's
So-
right. That's it. We've noticed that too, but it's hard for a lot of them to be inspired. They'll be
Yeah.
reading for a bit and then they kind of get in the doldrums and then get really
Mhm.
inspired. Yeah, but that's good. All right, and now the next question is, what publishing trends do you see emerging in the midst of this pandemic? I know I've asked all the other two publishers on this, and I don't know.
Yeah, so it's been interesting. As I said, people are writing more, and one thing that became evident when we started, I guess it was last fall, it was difficult to find an editor because everybody was writing so much that all the editors had tons of work, all the freelance editors, which is nice. So I expect there to be a lot of memoir coming out because
Memoir, okay.
yeah, I think people love reading memoir. It does quite well. And we have a few books that are pandemic related, but interestingly were actually written before the pandemic. But we picked them up, maybe partly because of the pandemic. And there are books that involve themes of isolation, themes of separation. You know, we have one called Petting Zoos, which is about people not dealing with people craving touch. And so what will be interesting is to see how those books do, because there's going to be a lot of that sort of thing out, because that's what many writers are writing about. So it'll be interesting to see whether, I think there will be a lot of those books initially, like now in the next half year or so. And it'll be interesting to see after that point if readers get sick of them. So.
Well, that's it, because I know we're up to here with the pandemic.
Yeah.
And you only want to read so much about it. You might want to
Mhm.
look at other topics too. No, you're absolutely right.
Mhm. But the themes will be there, I think.
The theme.
Themes will
I
stay.
guess it's how you handle the theme. It's going to be important. Well, that's interesting. Now, the creative buzz today appears to be the producing of audiobooks. Are you moving in that direction? I know it's hard to start any new venture in the midst.
Yeah. So yeah, audiobooks have become really important, and so many people are listening to them. They are complex and expensive to make. So we don't make them ourselves, but we do, when we sign a book, we are looking for a company to buy the rights from us for the audiobook. So you always want your books to be available somewhere as an audiobook, right? We're not doing the producing, we're not doing the
No,
recording.
but you have those channels.
Yes, yeah.
Where you can lay your hands on.
Yeah.
And the
so-
same would be for ebooks too. How do you feel about ebooks?
Oh, I read ebooks.
Okay.
So I feel quite good about ebooks. So they are, of course, popular. That people's reading habits are changing more and more to being used to reading like that. I mean, I read ebooks, but I prefer paper books.
That's
and-
good to hear.
Yes, yeah, I do read them,
Yeah.
partly because I read a lot of manuscripts as ebooks to save on my printing cartridges, right? So, but printed books, you know, people will always want them, I think.
There's nothing like cracking open a book, really.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, my older child, 13 years old, is suddenly all over books, and she, you know, wants the gorgeous cover, you know, and wants it as thick as possible. So
Also, she's willing to wade through a large book.
a large book, as long as it's, you know, exciting and fantasy. So
that's the genre, I guess, for the young adults, isn't it?
yes, yeah.
So are you going to be publishing that? Brings me the next somewhat fantasy type.
I think we do young adult, and we do some books around fantasy, but it's hard to break into because it is very much dominated by the larger publishing houses.
And Marvel has it all.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and I have a question here. How does Dundurn feel about publishing a writer who wishes to write a series of books? Is that good news for you? Have you had experience in series of books?
Yes, Dundurn has published, has had a very strong mystery section of its list, and many of those are series. So when you get a series that does well, and it just keeps doing well, I mean,
well, that's it. It's you want to encourage that.
Yeah. So we have a great writer, Barbara Fradkin, who has 2 different mystery series. She's on book 16 of one and book 4 of the other. And we published Steve Burrows' Birder Murder books. And there are about 7 of those. So when the series work, it works really well.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah, it is a big it's a risk for the publisher though, to take on, because if you almost think of publishing as almost like betting. So we decide to take a book.
Win, right? Place, or show.
Yeah. So if you're saying we're going to do 3 books, you're really putting, you're putting all your chips on the table and saying we're gonna stick with you for 4 years, 5 years of
well, that's a lot. But if they keep churning out excellent books, I mean, that's the name of the game, isn't it? You want to keep publishing their work. Yeah. Well, that's encouraging. I think I know of anyone who's writing a series. To certainly get in touch with you. Now we have about 5 minutes left, and I just would ask you, what would you like to leave an aspiring writer with? What messages or anything that you could kind of inspire them or just suggest?
Well, I think there's just billions of readers, right? And somebody's going to be interested in what you're writing, and people are reading more, and kids are reading, which is,
that's really encouraging to hear.
Yeah, despite, everybody thinks like they're all on their phones, and they are all on their phones.
And they're not out playing video games, and
they're playing video games and all that, but they're also reading.
Still reading. Yeah.
And the teenagers are reading, and YA is young adult books is.
That's it. So speaking of teenagers, are you into publishing the young adult stories?
I do the children's and the young adults at
you do.
Dundurn,
that's quite a good market, isn't it? I hear the young adults.
It's quite fun. And but we do fiction and nonfiction as well. And we are in the fall. We've started a new imprint called Rare Machines, and we'll be publishing quite almost experimental fiction, very contemporary fiction. So,
because I know Dundurn it changed hands, and there's always a transition period, isn't there? When it's been sold and you're starting kind of fresh.
Yeah. We still do history. We still do policy. So, there are aspects of Dundurn that continue the old Dundurn. Yeah.
And how many years has your publishing house been in business? I know that.
About 1974, I think.
Okay, 1974.
Yeah.
That's it. I know with the same with Guernica. We've been around for long, which is a lot for you. I mean, you've been able to, weather all major storms, and you're still going strong.
Long may it last.
Yes, that's it. Well, that's great. Well, I think now what we can start with our question and answer period. Kathryn, thank you so much. And I know you've got a really busy life, and I really appreciate that you took the time to, share some of your stories and what's happening at Dundurn with our online audience. Now, here's where you're going to be peppered with questions. I was just checking the chat line. Now, what we're going to do, I'll ask everybody to please push your stop video so you're on video so that we can see your face. And I think we might even try to unmute because we're going to try for questions. If you've put them in the chat box. Definitely, there's loads of them. Okay. I think, are they coming in your box, Michael and Kathryn and Bala? I see 69 different. That shows how popular publishers are, right? Would you get? Usually I judge it by the number of questions that are coming in. That is great. So I can go down some questions now. I think if everybody can just direct the question to the publisher they would like to answer that particular question. Just a second.
Hi, Mirolla, I have a question.
Okay.
Any publisher can jump in, whoever feels.
Okay, Roy.
What are the percentage of manuscripts that are rejected? I'm just curious what the number would be. Thank you.
Oh, put your video on, Roy. So we can see you. And everybody put their video on. And okay. So who wants to tackle that question by Roy? Okay, that's good. Roy's in the bottom. Yeah, he's a member of our Courtney Park group. He's right lyrics.
That's different for every publisher, I think, right? We get about 300 manuscripts during our submission period, and we publish 40 to 50 books. So what is that? 12%. So 12%. So 88% get rejected. Like I said
So what 88%? Okay. Yeah.
It's like,
So Michael, what are the challenges for established writers? Did you have to ever refuse an established writer, and can you share that experience?
Yeah, we have had to refuse established writers. We've had to refuse writers that we published previously, and this is one of the things. What I usually say is that, okay, we have 3 people here that at Guernica that make the decisions in the end. So we break it down into, okay, this is the top 10 out of this number of, let's say, poetry. Let's use poetry. So these are the top 20 of the manuscripts that were submitted, and then we say, you know what, any one of these is actually publishable, but we can only publish 8 of those. So quite often, we've had poets that we've published 3 or 4 of their books, and then we've had the next book that came in. We've had to say, you made the top 20, but you did not make the top 8.
Well, that's the problem. That's where it's hard, isn't it?
It's very hard. It's
really, especially if you publish
some of them will say, okay, we appreciate how difficult it is, and some of them will get very upset about it.
Well, that's it.
So anyway, that's my experience with that. So.
It is a tough call. Well, thank you, Michael, for that. Okay, I've got a whole list here from Richard. He's with us from Pickering. What format has to be supplied to the printer, i.e. in PDF?
So the
I don't know.
Printer, everything is done via the PDF.
Okay.
That was actually a question from the morning. So you
Oh,
can.
was it? I wondered.
Yeah.
I wondered. Okay.
No problem. Thank you.
Because I wondered, with traditional, I thought, that's good. But then Bala answered it. Okay. Okay, let me see, what have we got? We got to make sure. Go into your chats too, and any question that pops out. Okay, just a minute.
I think the one about whether a writer has to have their work professionally edited before submitting.
That's a really good question, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a good question.
Okay, just a second. Okay, and here's a question for Dundurn. Okay, Kathryn, does Dundurn intend on accepting submissions for pictured books? This has been the case in past years. Do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I saw.
That's from Eileen.
Yeah. So we don't do picture books, as in traditional children's format books. it's just not where our expertise are. And there are many really fabulous children's publishers in Canada. Kids Can Press, Owl, Owl Kids, Panic. So I think as much as I would like to be publishing picture books, it's one of the things we don't do.
That's what you're not doing. Okay, so what about Michael? Do you? And Bala's doing a picture book for one of our members, aren't you? Yeah, you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so Dundurn doesn't. All right, so Pratap has asked a question, and this is for Dundurn. Do you publish poetry and short fiction, Kathryn?
We don't publish poetry.
Okay. So you have to go to Michael then for poetry.
Yes, Michael's the one.
Yeah.
And we have started publishing short fiction. We didn't for a while, but when it comes down to it, all of the acquisition editors love short fiction, and there's some really wonderful short fiction books out there. So we have one coming out this summer.
Okay, so you
one in a
do.
long time. So
You're interested in short fiction. Okay, that's Pratap. I hope that was answered. Okay, this is from Marlene. Does Dundurn intend on accepting submissions for picture books? This has been the case in the past years. Are there any more? You don't do picture books at all?
not for children, no.
No.
If that's what they're talking about, we have done,
Yeah.
large format books. with
Kathleen
photographs.
is a children's author. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, here we go. I don't know who would like to answer this. This is from Susan. What is the requirement for size of poetry manuscripts, minimum and maximum number? So I guess, Michael, that would be for you since you publish poetry.
Yeah, the minimum is what the definition of a book is, and for prizes and for arts grants from the county council and etc. And that's 48 pages. So that would be like the minimum. The maximum, we published 3 books by George Eliot Clark, 3 poetry books by George Eliot Clark, and each one of those is almost 600 pages. So
Wow, that's a big book. I thought 400 was.
but most of the time it's between 60 pages and 80 pages for poetry, or maybe a little 84.
Under 100 then.
Yeah, usually under 100. Yeah.
Oh,
But again, it depends on the popularity of the poet, how established the poet is. We have something called the First Poets series, and that's poetry collections by poets 35 and under. There has to be their first collection. They could have published chapbooks and whatever beforehand, but this would be their first book, and those are normally 60 pages. I mean, we have an editor who deals strictly with that. That's Ilana Wolf, and she deals with that, and she's very tough. She's very tough on the poets. So yeah, usually those are about 60 pages.
60, okay, for an average size book. Okay, that's good. You've answered that. That's
Mary, sorry if I can jump in. Is there a particular genre that the publishers like or dislike? Again, you can share your reasons why.
Who
Like,
wants
for example,
to
like
answer that?
fiction or poetry or like art books. Like what would a publisher like to put out as opposed to not put out because they know it won't sell, even though it might be a great book by an author.
There are niche markets for every genre. So it depends. Now, I found that folk stories, folk tales. People are very interested in reading about different kinds of folk stories from different parts of the world. There are stories which are being retold by some writers, and which are quite appealing. That's one genre. Short stories are of course in demand. It has been in demand from a long time. Short fiction.
Okay, so it is very short, isn't it? I'm surprised when Michael said that. Okay, thank you, Val, for answering that question. I have a question here, Mary Rose Donnelly. This is to any publisher. How important is it for you to submit a manuscript to one publisher at a time? And I don't know what length of time is to leave it in that particular publishing house submission area. Who wants to jump in on that one? Kathryn?
Hi. I think it's okay to send your books to different publishers at the same time.
So it wouldn't be an exclusive. You wouldn't leave it with one publisher for a while.
No, I mean, you could, but you would have to wait sometimes for some publishers an awfully long time to find out whether or not you were accepted. And, you know, well, I think publishers understand that a writer needs to try more than one publisher if they're really, you know, if they want to bring out their book within a reasonable amount of time. So, you know.
It's okay then. Okay.
I think it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't mind simultaneous submissions, and as long as the writer lets us know right away.
Well, then the person, the author should definitely advise you in advance.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm shopping this one around to a number of publishers.
Yeah,
So you're aware of it.
not just that it's a simultaneous, but if it does get accepted, to let us know right away. Because then, you know, we don't spend our time evaluating at that point, and it's not, you know, but usually it takes 6 months from when we get a manuscript to when we can actually tell the author yes or no. So yeah, we don't demand that an author only send to us. It's not fair, you know. As a writer,
you wouldn't expect them to just wait for the 6-month period, so they would be able certainly to shop it around. Okay, that's good to know, because we get quite a few questions regarding that. Okay,
at the same time, if I may.
Yes, Ken. Go ahead.
Once you decide you're not going to accept a manuscript, do you let the author know that you've turned it down?
You're asking me? Yeah, of course.
Well, anybody.
Yeah,
anybody,
I think all publishers, you know, at some, you know, depending on the time period, but all publishers do send an email to the author saying, you know, sorry, you know, this didn't work out for us, and good luck, you know, in getting it published. Yeah, I mean,
just so they know.
Only part of should be part of every publisher's way of doing business.
That's interesting, Mike, because we've been hearing that people do not notify someone who is a writer who has submitted a manuscript. And I've heard of instances.
We don't notify. So on our submissions page, it says 6 months, and if you haven't heard from us, then
you consider it.
Then consider it not. Oh,
it's not gonna.
We have a different process from Michael. I'm listening to Michael's process and going, maybe we should do something like this, because our submissions are always open.
Yours are year round, and Michael today. Michael's submission deadline is today, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
So it's a different process, and yeah, you can send your manuscript to us at any time.
Okay, so it's good. You know, anytime.
No, but if you put it on the submissions page, that we will not respond. You won't get an email from us if the manuscript isn't accepted. That's, you know, you're in effect, you're telling the person right there.
Yeah, it's not good news. Yeah, they're not going to.
No news is bad news.
No, it's not going to fly.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
If I could just jump in, it's Rick here. I think all publishers should have the courtesy to tell an author, even after 6 months, if they decide not to use the manuscript.
I think that's
I would agree.
And I submitted a manuscript to Dundurn, and they contacted me 9 months later, and they were interested, but it was too late. You know.
Yeah, well,
and I do have a proposal with the Dundurn now, which has been in for quite a long time. So I'm just saying, I think you should at least have the courtesy to tell authors.
Okay.
That's a good point. Yeah. I think okay. That was what. Now,
Susan or Mary Ellen.
Yes.
Susan wrote a question. Is it worthwhile for writers to have their work professionally edited before they submit the manuscript for your consideration?
Okay, who wants to jump in on that one? Which publisher? if they have it professionally edited. Thanks, Elizabeth.
I insist on getting well-edited manuscripts because
Yeah.
I don't have the time.
No, that's
So
the
the
key.
turnaround will be like Michael said, it would be 1 year or 2 years before it gets.
Because it really,
edited.
it's very costly and time consuming,
And
isn't it?
and if it is well-edited copy, then it can go to press as soon as possible, within 2, 3, 4 months.
That's it. Now, how do you feel about that, Kathryn?
We don't insist that it's fully edited. We use editors,
You've got your own.
and we sometimes make suggestions for developments to the story or for how the book is put together. It's not, I would say it's a good idea to have somebody else read your manuscript before you send it to a publisher.
Well, definitely, that's what we suggest, that, shop it around to your friends and your family and get some comments rather than just sending it out cold.
Yeah. And we want to be open to, new writers or writers who maybe don't have connections with editors or don't have the ability to have it edited before.
Well, that's good. And I noticed, and I was really glad to hear, like, you want to work with more Canadian writers now. It's kind of at home.
Another question, if I may.
Sure, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah. Do authors retain their copyrights? And if not, after a certain period of time, do they retain them again?
A copyright,
Michael?
the author is in perpetuity. Once the thing is registered to the library and archives and the ISBN number is there, the copyright rests with the author.
With the
Does it?
other. Is that the
For a
case with
period
you,
of
Michael? and Kathryn?
for a period of 70 years, according to Canadian and the US laws.
Okay, so that's the same
The
for both.
author and their heirs and their next generation retains copyright.
Okay, good. Is that the same with the other?
All publishers have no copyright.
That's
they
it, eh?
can't hold copyright.
Yeah.
Actually, there is a difference. There is a difference. And that's the copyright is for the author's work, but the publishers retain the right to the actual book itself, the PDF.
And the ISBN and the barcode belongs to
It's
the
all part of the,
belongs to
that's
publisher.
the
Okay,
publisher
so it
retains
is.
that right, as long as the publisher, the contract between the publisher and the author is in existence. Afterwards, the rights all go back to the author. However, the author cannot use the cover design or the PDF to go to another publisher, for example, and say, here, I now have the rights to this book. Would you publish it? The PDFs, the cover designs, all still belong to the publisher.
I could understand that, yeah. I was meaning more if after the book was published, say 6 months out or something, CBC decided to make a series.
That depends on the contract you have with the publisher. Yeah, our contract, for example, calls for parts of the contract is that we can negotiate something for either TV rights or a film rights, but we negotiate only the actual option for it. So there's usually this is what happens when film or TV rights take place. The producer or whatever, the film company will pay to have an option on the book. So it's usually, the option is not a huge amount usually, it's unless you're Stephen King or something. So the option is something that we help negotiate. However, if the film company then says, okay, we're going to make this movie or we're going to do this series, all the money goes to the author. It's all, then it all belongs to the author at that point.
Okay, so the author retains.
Yeah. At least our contract, that's what ours does.
Okay, that's,
Different publishers have different contracts when it comes to subsidiary rights. That's a different thing, right?
so each one, you have to check that out when you're submitting your manuscript.
Yeah, I would say any author that is about to sign one of these agreements, that's the place where they should look. I mean, we all pay 10% royalty on the cover. We pay 10% on the cover price of a book. So in other words, if our book is $20, but it sells at Amazon for $14.99, we still have to pay $2 on that book to the author.
Okay, so this one,
not
okay,
net.
thank you for answering that. All right, I have a few
Thank
more.
you.
Roy has asked, Canadian publisher for multimedia works. Any of you, are you interested in multimedia? Or Michael or?
Well, it's hard to say what they mean. Sorry, I didn't get their
Well,
name.
multimedia, I know Roy writes lyrics.
Right. So
I think, is that what you mean, Roy?
most
Sorry, Kathryn, go ahead.
our books start as books, and then there are rights. So there's the rights for the audiobook, and there would be the rights for the film, right?
Right.
And the options, as Michael was just talking about. So, but in terms of doing like a multimedia work, that's not what Dundurn does.
Right.
So,
Because I've seen some publishers where you buy a book and there's like a CD-ROM of images or text or something or audio.
yeah.
So I was curious how that would come together and then a contract for a writer. I guess you'd have to clear, I guess if his images are original, that's okay. And then you have to clear the music. But I'm here thinking, what would be the budget for something like that? I'm sure it'll be more than just a conventional book.
Yeah, it would be quite high. I mean, I used to work at Darling Kindersley, and they had books that had all these different sort of elements to them.
That was the one in the UK. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I think most Canadian publishers are, the book is the first point, and then the audio book from that, and the ebook from that, and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you for that, answering that. Now we have a question from Mary Rose Donnelly, and whoever would like to answer it. Do you prefer to work with an author's agent, or does it matter? So who wants to tackle that question?
99% of the books that we get, the manuscripts we get, come from the authors themselves. The
Okay, so you don't work with a lot of agents.
Canadian, I think most Canadian publishers of a certain level, I'm not talking about HarperCollins, most Canadian publishers usually deal with the author. It's not that you don't want to deal with the agent, but it doesn't seem to be as in the US, for example. I know that most publishers say we will not accept manuscripts unless
Really, they're that astringent.
from agents. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
that's that's why we get a lot of manuscripts from American authors, in fact.
Well, that's it. They don't want to have to.
They don't have agents, you know. So,
No.
but yeah, I mean, in Canada, it's a different thing here. It's kind of it's
So
unusual.
it's not the biggest deal as it is in the US. And how do you feel about that, Kathryn?
Well, we work with agents, but we mostly work with authors, and then sometimes with agents. So it's nice to have the one-to-one connection with the author and not have the middle person. But then again, we have some agents who we know well, and they're like, oh, this would be to Kathryn's taste, right? And so that's kind of a nice thing to have. Those books, require a bit more money on Dundurn's part to acquire, because there's the agent in the middle, right? So we have to be more sure about the sellability of a book from an agent.
From an agent, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think if they're going to retain an agent, I think they're pretty serious. They must be a pretty skilled writer, I would say, in most cases.
Yeah. I mean, an agent it can be great for an author, but there are other authors who are like, they get frustrated with their agent. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm just kind of going through the list. Is there another question that someone else, would like to ask directly to one of the publishers? Okay. I think people are saying that they realize that it's not good to just leave their manuscript for 6 months with one publisher. That's good. They certainly, from this panel, that's a good point to kind of take home. Okay, so is there anything else? Does anyone else have another question? Okay.
I think that's got mine.
Okay. I think that we've got most of them.
I have a question,
Oh,
Mary
okay,
Ellen.
Colleen. Okay, go ahead and just present it to one of the publishers or
Yeah, I have a question for Bala. on your website, you do say that you accept submissions for children's books and picture books, but you also mentioned that it has to be of esoteric nature. Can you explain that further?
Yeah, like I said, I'm updating my website. That's a bit old now. There'll be a lot of changes coming in the next 2 weeks or so. But children's books, I mean, I haven't published any so far. I think I'm publishing one now for Christmas time.
Okay, so you'll be updating more information about the types of children's books you'll be accepting?
Okay, so are you, Ailey, are you interested in writing children's books?
Oh, yeah, I do read a lot of children's books. I do a lot of children's programming, so I read a lot of children's books, and
giving it a try. Go for it.
yeah, so I have 2 children's books that I've already written, but I think right now I'm trying to find an illustrator. I'm finding it a little tough because I'm not an illustrator by trade. So
let's put that out to the group. Does anyone know of a good illustrator?
I will look into publishing children's books, and I have illustrators with me.
Okay, so Aileen,
is good.
do you want to, or you can email me and then I can give you Bala's, give me your email
oh,
address.
I have Bala's information already, so
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Can I just interject, Aline? I've been to a few in the past, way back, some of the CANSCAPE yearly workshops. Now, CANSCAPE, CANSCAIP, stands for Canadian, Canadian Society for Children's Authors, Illustrators and Performers. They're based in Toronto, and they have a whole roster of illustrators. I mean, I've never used them. I've only just started my first children's book now, actually, while I'm under lockdown. But I know that they have illustrators, because when I used to go to the workshops years ago, some of the workshop, the 2-hour workshops were by performers, some were by the illustrators, and some were by the children's writers. They have a lot. So you could find illustrators right there at CANSCAPE.
Well, that's good to know.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheila.
Okay, we have an artist right there, Mina. She's
for the Mississauga Arts Council, we have lots of connections too. So if you're looking for any sort of collaborative partner, feel free to reach out, and we'll, scour our membership and see who we can connect you with as well.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
Okay, that's great. So does anyone else have a question they'd like? Mina, have you got one? Oh, we can't, you're on mute. Do you want to unmute? You have to, we can't hear you.
Still can't hear you.
We can't hear you. Unmute.
Are you talking to me, Mirolla?
No, Mina.
Mina, that's
no, sorry, Rena and Mina are close, aren't they? Yeah.
We always get them mixed up.
I know. We can't hear Mina. We can't hear you, Mina. No, she doesn't realize that she's on. Okay, Mina, unmute. Unmute, please, and then.
Unmute. She is unmuted. She's not on mute. For some reason, we can't hear her anyway. I can see that she's not on mute.
No, there isn't the little icon. I don't know.
Mina, can you get closer to the?
Try. I know what Susan had told me. You push down on the space bar and hold it. Isn't that what you said, Susan? When you can't unmute, so push your space bar of your keyboard down. And see if that'll help get you unmuted. Oh, that
Mina, use that line. Use that line, Mina.
Type it and we'll say it out loud for you.
Okay, well that is so. I'm sorry, Mina, we can't hear you.
Can anybody read lips?
Yeah, sign language. Okay. All right. Well, we're just about ready to wrap up, but I just want to say thank you so much to Bala and to Michael and to Kathryn. You've been, fabulous. I think you've answered a lot of questions that have been on the minds of a lot of writers here in the audience. And maybe it isn't all good news, but they've got the news. With the pandemic, things have changed. But I'm glad to see that you're all going ahead and you're publishing quite a number of books and your different genres. So I think that's a really good sign. At least it is as far as I'm coming from. And I want to thank you again, and I want to thank our audience as well. There were some really good thought-provoking questions, and you've been great. And I'll pass it along. I've got a little presentation wrap up, and I'll just kind of read it out. We've all been placed in front of traditional publishers panel, and I hope that it was a learning curve for all the aspiring writers in the audience. And I trust that you are now better informed and equipped to make the right decision regarding the publishing of your manuscript. Whatever you do, don't leave it tucked away in a drawer. We always hear that story that people haul it out, you know, every so often, but, you know, be proactive with it. And I want to wish you all the much success in becoming a published author. And I think I have learned an amazing lot of information about the publishing business. I know I get bits and pieces from Bala, but it was so good to Kathryn and Michael, the information that you shared as well. And I want to thank the TD Bank for sponsoring this presentation. And as well, I want to thank Susan Bennett. She was so invaluable helping Elizabeth and I and getting our presentations together and kind of streamlining it for us and keeping us out of the ditch. And also the Mississauga Arts Council for hosting this online Zoom event, because I think it's very good. We all need these events to kind of, they're learning experiences for us. So Susan, you go ahead, you have a wrap up too.
Thank you so much, Mary Ellen, and to Bala, Michael, and Kathryn, thank you for your presentations. It's been very, very informative. I'd also like to extend a thank you to TD Bank Group for sponsoring today's panel discussion, and also to Courtney Park Writers Group and Mississauga Writers Group for the development of the content of this workshop series. I'd also like to extend a big thank you to everyone who has joined us today. We hope that you've enjoyed the workshop. Also a note, we have recorded the session today and we'll be contacting you with the video link shortly. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your weekend.